Hey, what's up, guys? You are listening to the Airtime Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Adam, alongside Nick. What's going on?
What's up?
We got a pretty awesome episode for you today, so you better get fired up because we're going to be
Ooh,
talking about Firehawk.
stay tuned. So, X-Flight, as it was once known, opened at originally Six Flags Ohio, which later became Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, followed by Geauga Lake after the Cedar Fair buyout. And that opened in May of 2001 and operated until 2006. It was standing at a staggering height of 115 feet,
Whoa.
reaching breakneck speeds of 50 miles an hour,
Yeah,
with a total of 5 inversions. And my goodness, you were pulling 4.3 Gs on that. I actually did not know that.
that's
Um,
pretty intense.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty solid.
Hmm.
It was a 2 minute and 10-second duration, and this was boasted as the first flying coaster in the Midwest.
Yeah, and it's a Vekoma Flying Dutchman. I don't think we mentioned that yet. It's a
No,
clone. It's a clone of. Is there three, or at the time were there three or four?
so they were all within the Six Flags chain, if I remember correctly.
Right. You got
Minus Stealth, I guess. Stealth was the first one, and that was built at then Paramount's Great America, which then became Nighthawk at Carowinds.
hmm
First Borga simulator, then Nighthawk, as
right,
that was, and
right.
then and then yes, the only others were operating at
Yeah,
Six
Six Flags
Flags.
America, right? The Batman flight,
Batwing,
Batwing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Mhm.
Yep. And
And then you had Firehawk or X Flight,
right.
as it was known, and yeah, that was pretty much it. And B&M slowly took over the flying coaster market
Yeah,
and built a more superior model, as they tend to.
right. They usually do that.
They usually do
Those
that pretty
rascals.
well.
I'm
Those
proud
darn
to say
B&Ms.
that I've notched all three of the Flying Dutchmen on my bedpost, so
See,
to say.
on your coaster bedpost.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I was at Six Flags America on a nice and cold rainy day, and Batwing
Let me
would not
guess.
open.
What? No way.
No, yeah, it was
Yeah.
horrible. And
Yeah.
I asked the workers, I was like, "Hey, do you know if it's going to open today?" They were like, "I don't know." I was like, "Oh, all right. Well, thank you."
Well, yeah, the Flying Dutchman model is kind of known for breaking down a lot. Not
Yes.
It's pretty unreliable.
Oh,
Uh
it's very unreliable, and the op at least on Nighthawk, I know this is just kind of notorious. The operation time is absurd. Like to get it
yes.
dispatched, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's quite the
Like
process. Yeah.
it is. There's
It's
too many
slow.
mechanisms. It's
Right.
slow. I remember
Uh
the first time I rode X Flight at Six Flags. Um, just the process of getting the vest on, and there's some sort of other buckle, and there's other restraints. It
right.
felt like you were like getting ready to launch into outer space. It was absurd.
Well, especially at the time, it was so different than any other coaster restraint system. Yeah, so it's really weird. But yeah, speaking of low capacity, X-Flight slash Firehawk, its capacity was an average of about 520 riders per hour, which is
Okay.
that's super low. That's not
Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
very low. That's very low.
And it was a two train operation, and so what they did to help speed it up is the station was called, it was a dual station, so it had like a
Yes.
switch track so that two trains could load and unload at the same time,
Hmm.
and that did help speed things up. But still, having that dual station, you're still only getting 520 riders per hour.
Which is very, very low, like you're saying.
Right.
And you compare that to man, I don't even know what just your Superman Ultimate Flight or whatever the
Right.
case, Manta. I can't imagine how it's got to be double that for the rider
I
capacity for
would
those
guess so.
B&Ms.
Yeah, I still think the B&M
I
Flyer
don't really
model,
care.
I think it's still lower capacity compared to like their hyper coasters or whatever, just because there's a little bit more
Oh
that goes
yeah,
into the flying coaster. But I think it's significantly more than the Vekoma Flying
right.
Dutchman model. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Manta at SeaWorld Orlando is 1,500 riders per hour.
Oh
So
yeah, so that's like three times
triple.
as many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big difference. So I think ultimately that was one of many reasons why Kings Island eventually removed Firehawk, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
as
we will.
far as X Flight goes, when it opened at Six Flags Ohio, I did not get a chance to ride it as X Flight. I
Hmm.
eventually rode it as Firehawk at Kings Island. I
Hmm.
know, Nick, that you were able to ride it at, was it Geauga Lake when you
Yeah.
rode it, or Six Flags Worlds of
Uh,
Adventure?
I believe I wrote it at all three of its phases, if I remember
Okay.
correctly. Maybe just
Right.
Six Flags Worlds of Adventure and then Geauga Lake, but
Right. Okay.
yeah, so it was I remember for the longest time it was like my favorite coaster because um I didn't get to go to Cedar Point a whole lot growing up just because it was quite a bit more expensive than Geauga Lake.
Right.
So, I loved going there and I loved this kind of ugly green parking lot coaster at Geauga Lake. Like
Right.
it was just there to welcome you, and it was real at the time very intimidating. And it took me a few years to actually like muster up the courage to ride it because it was kind of like I said, it's kind of terrifying if you look at it.
Oh yeah.
Back in that day, like 2003, it was like, geez, what the heck is this thing?
Right.
Um, and the fact that it had you on your back, like going up the hill, and then flipped you over, like
Yeah.
the different sensations kind of like I don't know, I just wasn't drawn to it. Like I thought it was cool, but I didn't really want to ride it. I was kind of afraid. But in general, yeah, I mean it was a fun ride. I think that the Vekoma Flying Dutchmans do get a lot of unnecessary hate just because of the slow ops and the low ridership. I mean, even back in that day, it was really well.
Right. Yeah, the speaking of the vest restraints and the whole train system, it is really weird. So with the Vekoma Flying Dutchman, you get in your seat with your back facing the forward direction of the train. As the train is dispatched, all the seats lay back. So you're laying on your back with your head facing the lift hill. So that
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can imagine being a kid or someone who's kind of afraid of coasters. It's pretty intimidating because as you're going up the hill, you're just kind of staring up at the sun. You have no
Yeah.
idea when you're getting near the top, and then all of a sudden you flip over and you're looking straight at the
Yeah.
ground. I mean, it's pretty intimidating.
Yeah. I remember like the first time I rode it, I was petrified because like you said, you can't see where you're going.
Right,
Like all you can see is the midway, like technically behind you, I guess.
right.
And yeah, so you try and crane your neck around to see when you're at the top of the
Right.
hill, but you
Or
really
like
have
look
no
up,
clue.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
those I mean,
yeah, it's funny to watch
those
I was gonna say it's funny to watch the POV of any of these Flying Dutchman coasters because like the
yeah.
first 30 seconds is just the sky
Yeah,
while
right.
it's
Yeah.
going up the lift hill. Yeah.
Yeah. Not my favorite lift hill by any means, but I
No.
mean,
And do you compared to the B&M Flying Coaster, so in that model,
mm,
you get in the seat more like a B&M invert coaster, right? Like where you're
yeah,
sitting and
yeah.
your feet are dangling, and then as it's
Mhm.
dispatched, the seats move up, so you're kind of facing the ground, and then you go up the
Right.
lift hill facing the ground. I
Right.
think I mm, I think I actually prefer the Flying Dutchman
Oh, really?
version
Okay.
going up the hill backwards just because like I like the B&M flying coasters, but when you're kind of just hanging there dangling upside down, it's not super comfortable.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're definitely right.
Yeah.
And I think I think the reason I probably prefer the B&M model is just because you kind of can see where you're going. I
Right.
mean, a little bit better. Like,
Yeah.
um, and
The-
and you definitely feel the G's quite a bit more on those, like especially on those pretzel loops and
an-
whatnot.
Another thing that feels weird to me is about the Flying Dutchman. This is stupid, but when you come back into the station, you're still kind of in like a lying down position. And you just feel kind
Yeah.
of vulnerable, like just lying there in front of everybody. until they get you sitting
I know
upright. It's just
exactly what
weird.
you mean.
It's
It's
awkward.
so weird. And sometimes, like, if you've ever ridden Nighthawk and you know that their operation times are an abomination, you
Hmm.
know that you're on like the final brake run for at least 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then to get into the station and then unload is at least another 2 minutes.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
takes a
my
while.
word. Yeah, like you feel like all the blood and snot's rushing up to your brain.
Uh-huh.
Like it's just not a good
Yeah,
situation.
these coasters are good to ride first thing usually. Like
Yeah,
if
knock them
you don't
out.
want to wait a long time, yeah. So I've been the first Flying Dutchman I rode was Nighthawk at Carowinds, and then Firehawk, and then last summer I rode Batwing. So
Okay, yeah,
I think of the three, I would say I probably liked Firehawk the best, but
totally,
yeah.
totally. I much preferred Firehawk. I think, um, I don't know. And the thing that I've noticed sometimes with relocated rides is that they not all the time, but a lot of times they don't tend to be as smooth as when they were originally
Hmm.
built.
Sure.
I don't know if you've noticed that too, but I noticed that with X Flight, like if X Flight and Firehawk, they were, I mean, I'd say the same ride
Right.
experience. There was no shakiness or, odd feeling that wasn't like it was at Geauga Lake,
Right.
which I really appreciated. And I got to ride Firehawk twice, I think, when it relocated. And both times I was like, man, this is just what I remember. It was a good experience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that ultimately, and we'll talk more about this later. It was just, even though it was a pleasant ride, all things considered, not many people can say it wasn't. It was.
Right.
All things considered, it was very outdated and it needed to
Yes.
go.
Yep.
So
Oh yeah, I agree. I think it just kind of met at the end of its lifetime, and it was just time to
yep.
go. And I expect Batwing and Nighthawk to eventually, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, be gone
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Oh yeah.
Because I think also parts are harder to come by for those models as well because they don't make them
Uh,
anymore.
Yeah, they don't make them anymore, and that's
Hmm.
why, like, I think that's another reason why Cedar Fair shut down Firehawk was because I think they probably looked at the ridership or
Yeah.
the land, I guess, rather between Carowinds and Kings Island, kind of weighed their options and said, well,
Right.
let's shut down Firehawk, put something new here, something better, something
Yep.
more up to date, and then ship the parts to Carowinds, and they
Yeah.
can,
So they can
keep Nighthawk
have
alive.
yeah
So
parts to switch out. Yeah. Yeah, and then you were saying before, so X Flight when it opened at Geauga Lake, or actually Six Flags Ohio at the time,
mhm.
it was built in the parking lot. The land was a bus parking lot for
Mhm.
charter buses and whatnot, so they slapped it right there, and it was, I believe from the maps I've seen, it was as you entered the park, like to the right, so like right by the parking lot, kind of like
Yeah.
the statement coaster as you're walking into the park.
Yes, it was, and it really. I guess the whole concept of a parking lot coaster was sort of a thing back then, but it
Right.
really kind of capitalized on that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, just with the color scheme, like it was very inviting. It was very, it was the first thing you saw when you walked into the park because of that bright green, and
Yep.
it was like, man, I mean, I remember being a kid thinking that's pretty cool. That's like
Yeah.
the first thing you see.
Bright green track and black supports.
It was like navy blue,
Okay,
indigo,
gotcha.
purpley. Yeah,
Okay,
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was really cool looking, and like we said before, the flying coaster model was a new idea at the time, and
Yeah.
like the B&M inverts were around, the Vekoma SLCs were around, so the idea of riding below the track wasn't new, but the idea of like being in a flying position was new. So
Right.
I can
Right.
see why it was your favorite coaster at the time and for a while, and
Yeah.
probably a lot of people, just because people like the newest model of coaster.
Yes, definitely. And before I gotta correct myself before someone else does. I apologize. It never operated at Six Flags Ohio because that was only open for 1 year, 2000. So
Oh,
2001,
so
it
it was
only
Worlds
operated
of
at
Adventure.
yes. So I know someone's gonna come in and be like, well, actually, it was
Yeah. Well,
only at Worlds of Adventure, but
so
that's okay.
was Six Flags Ohio only for the year of 2000?
Yes, and then they
Okay.
acquired SeaWorld. Well, SeaWorld, like I came to, if I remember this correctly, SeaWorld came to Six Flags and said, hey, we want to buy your park.
Right.
And Six Flags said, actually, no, we're going to buy you. SeaWorld was like, okay,
Right.
great. So,
Right. Right. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So X-Flight opened at Six Flags Worlds
Worlds
of
of Adventure,
Adventure.
not
Got that
Ohio.
straight. Yeah.
My
How
fault.
dare you? Jeez.
My fault.
Yeah. So when Cedar Fair took over
Hmm.
Six Flags World of Adventure, they switched the name back to Geauga Lake. And
Yeah.
then did X-Flight operate at all under the Cedar Fair
Yes.
name? Okay.
Yep, for 2 years. And in 2006, it shut down. Or it might have been SBNO for some of the year, something like that. I think
I
as they
believe
were
it
getting ready to
was.
tear it
Yeah.
down.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I remember it didn't have a whole lot of ridership, if at all, during that
Right.
year. Because then in 2007, it reopened at Kings Island.
Yeah. And and
Um,
and do you think what do you think? Yeah, what was the reason why Cedar Fair would have moved the coaster? Do you think at that time they knew that eventually they were going to close the park? Do you think they were trying to
oh
downsize the
yeah.
park?
Oh,
All of the
they
above?
knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
they and that's kind of when us locals at the time were starting to get a taste of what's
Hmm.
going on. They took the
Right.
premier coaster out,
Yeah,
like
because that's
it,
really
it would.
weird. That'd be
Yeah,
like
right.
Hershen who just bought Kentucky Kingdom. That'd be like them coming in and then within the
Taking
first
out
couple of
Storm
years,
Chaser
or Lightning Run, like
or
moving it to
Lightning
Silver
Run.
Dollar
Yeah,
City, and you're like, wait a second, what's going
what's
on?
going on?
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
right.
And so you started to get a hint of that, and you went through the 2006 season like, okay, everything's good. In 2007, and they shut down Steel Venom, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, got it. Message
Right.
received.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. As a coincidence, it actually opened it opened May 26, 2001 at Six Flags World of Adventure, and then opened May 26th, same day, but 2007 at Kings
Yes.
Island. So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Coincidence.
6 years later,
6 years later, and then it lasted for a shocking amount of time. At
2018. Yeah.
Yeah, so a long time. 12 years? Did I do the math right? Yeah. No, 11 years. 11
Yeah.
years. Yeah. So that's a long time for a fairly outdated coaster
Yeah,
to
it is.
hang
Yeah.
around.
Right.
And I remember, the first time I went to Kings Island, it just always Firehawk always kind of felt out of place, and I couldn't quite figure out why. It was in the back of
Mm-hmm.
the park, kind of in this corner by this field-ish,
Right. I
off
was gonna
on its
say, yeah,
own.
yeah, I agree with you. I was gonna say part of that I think is the location.
Yeah, it never felt like it had a place there, and which was why I was surprised it lasted so long. I kind of waited each year that passed for Kings Island to be like, yeah, we're taking it out, we're tearing it
Right.
down, we're moving it.
Yeah, it
But
is. It is an awkward location back there. So
yeah,
before they put it there, I guess you would still walk back there to Flight of Fear. But
yeah,
once
but that was
once they
about it.
yeah once they put in Firehawk, that whole area became like the X base area, I think it's
X
called.
base, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a weird area. It's nicer now that they've added Orion, which we'll get
Yeah.
into. But
Yes.
I do at the time, like the first time I rode Firehawk, I did feel like that area back there was just kind of, it felt like it didn't really match the rest of the park. Like it just felt like a weird
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
It was just it was just a weird kind of conglomeration of stuff back there. There was
Right.
no theme. There was no. I was just kind of like, let's just put this outdated coaster right here.
Right. So when they finally made the announcement that it was going to be closing, that was in, I think, September of 2018. They kind of gave
Yeah.
the guests a month notice, like this is the final year to
Which
ride Firehawk,
yeah,
which
they
is
did right
awesome.
by that. Yeah.
It's great that they did that, because a lot of times park nowadays, anyways, parks don't let you know when a ride or a coaster is leaving. They just announce it in the off
Yeah.
season, and you don't get your final chance to ride it. So you have to
Right.
respect that they at least gave people a month to get their last rides in.
Yes, and that's something that I've really appreciated about I guess especially this new management of Cedar Fair is they they've all been they've been about at all their parks as much as they can, having the last ride, and they'll throughout the season, especially toward the end of the season, they'll kind of drop clues. Oh, we're losing a coaster. Here's some clues about what it could be,
Right.
and then you're
Yeah.
left guessing and speculating. But then they give you a good solid month where they release, hey, we're closing this coaster, you can come ride it on this day for the last time. Like they did
Yeah.
at Mantis and Mean Streak and Firehawk and Vortex. And like they've really done right by allowing riders to come back and have one last kind of hoorah.
Right.
It softens the blow a little bit.
Oh, it definitely does. Because in cases of like volcano or even like
Right.
the entire park of Geauga Lake, like people had no warning, and I think it
Yeah,
hurts.
and
It hurts a lot more to people who really like those
Ye-
rides or care about them.
Yes, yes, yeah, and I truly believe they would have done that for Volcano had it been safe. Like I don't
I
think it was in a
agree.
position where it could reopen,
Yeah, I
or
think
else they totally would have.
right. I think when Volcano closed, I don't think they knew that it was going to be closed for good.
Yeah,
So I
yeah, I
think
think
they
they.
had intentions on reopening it, but they
Hmm.
just couldn't. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
I couldn't find any commercials for Firehawk at Kings Island. For some reason, as far as YouTube is concerned, there's no Kings Island commercial from 2007.
Hmm.
So, second best thing was to find a commercial from 2001 when X Flight debuted at Six Flags Worlds of Adventure. So, we're going to
And
check that out.
and the animations are fantastic.
Yes. So, I don't know if this was a commercial necessarily or like a something that they would promote on their website because it's set up more like well, it's an animation of the ride, so there's like off-ride footage, and then eventually there's like a POV. So I think this is
Yeah.
more of like something they would send out as like a press release.
Yeah, I think this was like something they'd put in their e-newsletters or
Right.
at the time or whatever. And they had I very, very vaguely remember a commercial. I don't know if it was this one though that would
Right.
play on local television.
I would assume that there was a commercial for this X Flight and also a commercial for Firehawk. I just couldn't
You
find
would
it.
think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So okay, we're gonna check this out. This is X Flight from 2001.
Introducing the Midwest's first flying roller coaster. X-Flight.
I love that music.
Oh,
Get horizontal on X-Flight, the first coaster in the Midwest that actually lets you fly.
That's right. Yes.
Experience
Wow.
8 loops, twists,
Wait a second.
spirals.
So just
8
say it had
loops.
8 loops. That's not right.
no, it's not.
8
They had
loops.
5 inversions. That was, I mean, okay, 8 loops.
Okay.
Why not?
Wait, what are they counting as a loop?
I'm trying to think. Like,
Are they?
do they count when you flip over at the top of the hill as a loop,
I guess.
or like an inversion?
maybe.
There's that's a stretch, guys. That's a stretch.
Loops. Okay, so I'm going to set this up a little bit more. So what we're seeing right now is animation of the video, and it's like, showing you like cutting back and forth from on-ride video to POV video, and yeah, talking about the different details of the coaster. And apparently it has 8 loops. Who would have known?
Yeah. Well, who would have known? Vekoma.
Okay, let's get back into this.
And complete inversions.
Wait, okay, sorry. Okay, it's confusing. I'm going to back it up a little bit. It says 8 loops and complete inversions. So
is that like 16?
so I think whoever made this video, in their mind, loops and inversions are different things.
Yeah, that they hired the wrong commercial company.
Okay,
This is
I backed
poor.
it up again so we can play it through.
On
Here we go.
X-Flight, the first coaster in the Midwest that actually lets you fly. Experience 8 loops,
8
twists,
loops.
spirals, and complete inversions.
Oh,
Fly 115 feet high directly into the sky. Riders rocket at
The
speeds
animation's
reaching
so good.
51 miles per
oh,
hour.
it's awesome.
Smoothly soar over serpentine steel track.
I did like the color
Total
combination,
flight time,
the green and the
1
blue.
minute and 50
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
seconds of excitement. Are you ready for takeoff?
Hell yeah.
Please fasten your seatbelt.
Hell yeah, brother.
About to depart from Six Flags, Ohio. Enjoy your flight.
Well, now they said Six Flags, Ohio. That was probably before they changed it.
Yeah. Must have been.
That when they announced it, yeah.
Because I think I actually read that they announced X Flight and then like a week later they bought SeaWorld.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, now we're
I'll
at
be
the POV
darned.
version.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna fast forward to the end here.
That's on X Flight, the mid. Thank thank you for flying with us on X-Flight,
Yeah.
the Midwest's only flying coaster. Coming soon to Six Flags, Ohio.
Yeah, Six Flags Ohio.
I'll be darned. See, I wasn't that wrong, guys.
After watching it again, I think when it said 8 loops, I think I paused it too soon because it said it features 8 loops, twists,
But I think you're
inversions.
innocent. I think you're innocent because as an English teacher, I'll tell you that their wording was just misleading because it was like 8 loops, twists, inversions, spirals, loop-de-loops, macaroni shapes. I don't know.
So in their mind, were they thinking like it features 8 different elements?
Yeah, 8 different elements that
it's worded it was worded really strangely.
That was bad wording. You guys get an F. So I forgot to share one of my favorite stories ever on any coaster took place on X-Flight, and I'll keep it short.
Okay.
But I will never, for as long as I live, forget this story because it scarred me. So I was getting ready to board for the first time ever. I was probably, 10, 11 years old. And I remember I was the next train. And as the train before me was getting let down, the guy in my row that I would have been on, this very kind of large guy, large in stature. They had a hard time kind of buckling him in.
Right.
And as soon as they started tipping backwards, you know how it kind of stutters as it tips backward? Yeah. He was like freaking out and holding on for dear life. And then on their way out the station, he yells, "I've got diarrhea!" And sure enough, it was true. And so I had to wait for it to cycle through a couple times.
Oh man, I've heard it. So obviously I've seen and witnessed them hosing down trains for vomit, but not diarrhea.
No, this was the other end. Yeah, this was the other end.
Jeez.
Yeah. And actually that same day, it was a weird day. That same day I tried to get on Dominator. Yeah. And they had to cycle it because someone bit a hole through their tongue and were bleeding. So they had to like wash that out.
Yeah.
So it was like, what the heck?
Like,
what happened to just puking?
Right. The good old fashioned puking.
Yeah. Just come on. We're going to have to delay for guest illness.
At least the guy was honest and like yelled it out, because if it was me,
yes,
I would have not said a word, and I would have like just quickly got off the ride as soon as possible. And
yeah. I mean, and this guy was clearly like terrified, and I get that they'd already sent it, but yeah, I mean, dude, you're not even going up the hill yet, and you're pooping your pants. I mean, come on.
Gross. Oh man, that'd be such a bad ride for him in like his sticky pants.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I felt bad for him, but at the same time, I was like, well, I don't really want to ride this anymore.
At that point, you just got to go home, right? You can't stick around. No. You just got to go home.
I mean, yeah, you can go buy some, $50 britches at the gift shop there, but that's about all you can do,
I would have just tied my jacket around my waist and just went about my
day. It was 2004. That was an acceptable look back then.
Oh, yeah,
so
the grunge look. Yeah. Oh, man, that's a good story. That's embarrassing.
Oh, yeah. Great story. Man, I forgot about that until just now, actually.
Oh, that's hilarious. Sick. I wonder what that guy's up to now.
Oh, probably pooping his pants on other types of coasters.
So, and the final year of Firehawk was 2018, and they quickly dismantled the coaster during that off season, and that's when we started to see the new teaser campaign for what was to come next, and they were like referencing all this different space stuff. And they were hanging posters along the construction fence of where Firehawk was. And then eventually all the teasers led us to the announcement of Orion, which would be the first Giga coaster at Kings Island.
Yep. And it was, hate to say it, but it's far superior.
Yes.
Fair enough. You win this one. But and like I said, I mean, Firehawk just had to go. It was outdated. Whether or not they put a Giga there, they could have put anything there and it would have been a better fit. And as much as I love Firehawk, I just have to kind of face the music, and that's just the reality of it. Like they just needed something new there.
Yeah, and I think you're right too, what you're saying about, either Carowinds, Nighthawk, or Kings Island's Firehawk. One of those two were going to leave,
Mhm.
and they were going to keep the other one up. And whichever coaster was destroyed, they were going to take parts to the other coaster. And it made the most
Yeah.
sense for Kings Island to remove Firehawk because that was a valuable chunk of land. They were due for a new coaster.
Yep.
So it made the most sense. And yeah, I agree. I think Orion is obviously a far superior coaster.
Mhm.
They did reuse the X-Flight, no, I'm sorry, not X-Flight, the Firehawk on-ride photo building. They
Yes.
reused that. That's now
Yep.
the entrance to
Mhm.
Orion.
Mhm.
I think that's about all that they kept of Firehawk. Maybe a portion of the queue they kept. I don't think
Yeah.
so, actually. I don't know. I
I
think
think they maybe a portion of the queue. I can't remember.
right
Well, we'll have somebody tell us in the comments or message us, and they'll say, "Actually, this is everything that was used."
after
You
they tell you,
fools!
oh yeah, after they make fun of you for calling it Six Flags Ohio.
Oh yeah, I don't know anything about coasters, guys. I'm so sorry.
Right. And so once they did add Orion to the Kings Island, as I was saying before, they kind of revamped that area of the park, and now it's called
Area area
70,
78,
something like that.
70.
Whatever it's
Yeah,
called,
like
it's
the year it opened.
the year that Racer opened or the park. Well, I think Racer
Yeah,
opened with
they
Kings
opened at the
Island.
same time. Yeah.
Yeah, so area
I think 78.
76 or 78, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge improvement. They kind of revamped Flight of Fear, the facade of it. They added more theming in
Yeah.
the area. It's still kind of that area sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb in the park, but it's much better.
And I think the cool part about it is, if I remember correctly, there's still enough land where if they wanted to add and kind of like build upon that spacey theme, they
Mhm.
could add like a flat ride somewhere or something with a small plot to
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
further flesh out and make it more cohesive,
Right.
like of the whole spacey area 78 or whatever kind of feel.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the weirdest things about the area for me, for even Orion, still it's still a little bit weird back there. Is part of it is like what you were saying before. It just feels like kind of this open area of flat land,
Yeah.
and then next to that area is like a lot of maintenance buildings.
Yes.
So it almost feels like a backstage area in a way. Because even before, I mean, the Flight of Fear building looks much better now, but before Orion was built, Flight of Fear itself, the building kind of looks like a maintenance building or something. Like it's not an attractive looking building. So it just felt like a weird kind of like isolated, like flat, I don't know, like wasteland back there or something. I don't
It
know.
really did. It
Yeah.
really did. And I remember going to Kings Island for the first time, and obviously, as everybody knows, Firehawk wasn't the most attractive coaster toward the end of its life. They stopped keeping up with its paint
Yeah,
job.
you
So
could start to see the green coming through a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
it looked real grungy,
Yeah.
and it was like, that kind of added to the whole weird spot, weird coaster, weird location kind of feel to it. But all things considered, it was a solid ride.
Right.
I do miss it. I definitely do. I rode it the last year it was open. Had a fantastic ride, like every other time. It was a great coaster, but yes, it needed to go. It was
Right.
time, and as much as I hate saying that, believe me, it really just Kings Island needed something new and something better.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would say probably 99% of the people agree that Orion is a better replacement. Probably
Yes.
99.9%.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad to see a coaster go, especially if it's one that you love, but I think most people can understand why and be pleased with what they put in its place.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're, a nostalgic person like Adam and myself, you hate seeing stuff like that go, but you also understand that, if you're an enthusiast, it's all about innovation. It's all about
Right.
what's new, what's
Right.
what's the newest feat in engineering, what's going to be the cool thing that's going to draw in the GP, because
Right.
that's why these parks operate. These parks don't operate for enthusiasts like us.
Mhm.
They operate for the GP. They want to make them come in and bring their friends and their family, and
Right.
that's exactly what Orion was. It was a GP pleaser to a T, and it's
yeah.
awesome. I really love Orion.
Yeah,
I think
I
it was
like
a great
Orion.
fit.
Yeah, it's a really fun coaster, and I think with Firehawk, with it being as old as it was, low rider capacity, an outdated coaster model, it was obviously time to go. And Orion, the Giga coaster, it's the future technology, and it's the capacity is outstanding, and yeah, that's going to draw people from all over the country to come ride it. So it makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think that's all there is to say about Firehawk.
Yeah, it was a fun ride. You guys hopefully were able to ride it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a pretty good showing. The last month, people wanted to come out and ride it. It is funny, rides like Firehawk or Vortex, even at Kings Island. Uh, Obviously, they have their strong core base of people who really love them, but probably for the most part, it's not a lot of people's favorite coaster at the park. But as soon as something gets announced and it's closing, then all these people come out of the woodwork like it's the end of the world. But
yeah, oh yeah. I remember when Vortex closed. I think there was like petitions.
Oh yeah, I can understand a little bit more with Vortex over Firehawk.
It had a lot of history,
right? And it does help with Firehawk. Another thing that softens the blow is if someone really loves that coaster model, you have other options where you can go to Six Flags America or Carowinds and still ride the same model, same layout. So.
And if you're just into the flyer thing, you can go to a lot of different parks and ride at B&M.
Right.
So.
Yep. Yeah, so if you have had the chance to ride Firehawk or X-Flight, let us know in the comment section. Let us know what you thought of the ride. Do you like Orion better? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, guys, before we leave, make sure you go and check out airtimemisfits.com because we just released a brand new pennant from the wonderful people at Oxford Pennant. They helped us, we designed it, they helped us create it. It's a Credit Chasers Club pennant. So if you're like us, you like to collect those coaster credits, no matter what size it is, no matter if it's a kid's coaster or a old rickety coaster, you want the credit. So
absolutely, it's all about the credits.
That's right. So you need this pennant. Join the Coaster Credit Club, the Credit Chaser Club.
The Credit Chaser Club.
I think I got it.
Triple C.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can find us on Instagram. We're on Twitter, and we really appreciate you guys listening, and be sure to go back and listen to our other episodes if you haven't done that already. Yeah, we will see you in the next episode.
Later.